Well, hello. My name is Paul Martyn-West. I'm a professional tenor and singing teacher working in Southeast London. And this is my YouTube channel called Reflections on Beautiful Singing, where I discuss various aspects of singing, both ancient and modern. Today I want to talk a little bit about breathing for singing, somewhat controversial subject, and the subject of much debate over the years as to the best way to breathe for singing. The laryngoscope was invented by Manuel Garcia, a singing teacher, in 1854, and from that time onwards, scientific investigation got more and more involved in the practice of singing, and there was much interest in the topic of breathing, and a whole plethora of ideas and terms came about mostly from that time onwards, such as abdominal breathing, auxiliary breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, intercostal breathing, clavicular breathing, dorsal breathing, back belly breathing, up and in, down and out, and even a term squeezing the dime, where you take a breath and you squeeze your buttocks together, which I don't think is a great way of going about things. Now, if any of these ideas help students, then all well and good. And I know lots of singers feel very particular about the way they breathe, and that's to be expected. But if sometimes with students who are trying to breathe in a certain way, they end up getting more tied up in knots rather than freeing their ability to breathe in a very natural way. Contrasting against this 19th century, 20th century way of thinking are the singing teachers of the 1700s, like Tosi and Mancini, who saw breathing more in simpler terms. They weren't so interested in what happens with the body as what they wanted to just simply talk about techniques of breathing in terms of the outcome of their breathing. So what did they actually say? Well, here's a nice quote from Tosi. Tosi forbids us take a breath in the middle of a word unless we have very long divisions or very long passages. He warns the singer not to labour over his breathing, to take breath easily without fatigue, not as though it was his last breath. So we don't want anybody to die when they take a breath when they're singing. And to sing a great number of compositions in order to know where to take the breath. So it was basically through experimentation, through experimentation and knowing experience, let's say, knowing where one should take a breath in singing, that the breathing was bettered. Now, in 20th century parlance, there are lots of people that believe that the breathing controls the singing, whereas in the 1700s, it's more a suggestion that the singing controlled the breathing. And Mancini talks about this in 1774, where he gives us some simple exercises that might actually help our breathing. And he gives us the idea of singing long, sustained notes for a comfortable period, that over the course of time, if we practice this, that will actually help our ability to sustain longer phrases. And later on, he suggests something called a messa di voce, which is a crescendo and a diminuendo on a long note. It's a very, very difficult thing to do. And people spent years and years practicing this technique. It sort of goes la, something like that. I should practice a few more years, I think. But it was things like that that actually helped in terms of breathing. And also slightly related to this, runs and arpeggi and singing by leaps called cantar di spalzo were first practiced at a slow tempo so that the student could adequately sing these things in tune with the requisite breath. And everything was done quite slowly, first of all. But of course, as I said in a previous video, the stress of modern life gets in the way, and we become fixed in our bodies and fixed in our breathing apparatus. And so sometimes it's a very good thing to actually do some breathing exercises without singing, a limited amount of that, because it can actually help awaken the breathing apparatus, so it's more readily available for when we sing. And blowing, for instance, can be a very good thing to awaken the breathing apparatus. Panting and sustaining, say, an S sound, this can also help. I want to quote from a modern book, or it's not a modern book now, but it's fairly modern, certainly modern, more modern than the 1700s. And this is Husserl's book on singing. He says on page 50, avoid at first any systems of breathing in practice and in print that require mechanical or methodical practicing. Most of them run contrary to nature. Do not pump yourself full of air when about to sing. It will not give you a longer breath, nor will the tone be stronger or carrying better. And later on he says, remember that a properly functioning larynx to a great extent trains and regulates your breathing. Therefore the tone must be well placed. Now, I will come on to that a little bit later as to a properly functioning larynx. But I just want to quote my singing teacher. I had lessons with him in New York for a time, and I was very honoured to be able to write a chapter in the Modern Singing Master, a book honouring Cornelius Reed's life as a singing teacher. But in this book by Cornelius Reed, he says, short of the time when really advanced training begins, instruction in breathing should emphasize those aspects of technique which encourage naturalness of posture. There should be no raising of the chest or tensing of the shoulders, no pulling in or pushing out of the abdominal wall, no direct effort to expand the rib cage, and no indulgence in the often burdensome chore of breathing too deeply. The amount of breath to be used, the manner in which it is inspired, and the way it is utilized as an energetic force will in the end be determined by the efficiency of the motor response within the laryngeal pharynx, by the precision with which the laryngeal muscles engage in phonation position themselves. When this process is carried out without violating healthy movement potential of the respiratory system, nature herself will dictate the manner in which the breath should be fed into the mechanism. A correct technique of breathing follows nature rather than being made to act upon it. So I think his ideas, if quite difficult perhaps to explain over a video clip are very useful. So what could one recommend for helping one's breathing in singing? Well, I think when you breathe, one should keep the shoulders and the chest relaxed and quiet and allow the tummy to be soft and free. And therefore we don't raise our shoulders up, and the breath can be taken a little bit lower into the body. Ladies, for instance, and dancers tend to hold their bodies, but their abdomens tightly in, and that it needs to be flexible and free to receive the breath into the body. Don't pump yourself full of breath, as Hussler says, as this will stiffen your body, but take a moderate breath. Experiment with your own voice to find the best place to breathe in long passages. This will be determined by what level of singer you are. If you're a professional singer, you can sing longer phrases. You will be more advanced than somebody who hasn't done an awful lot of singing. And therefore, if you're a choir singer and a relative beginner, you will have to look for places in long passages where you can comfortably take a breath. Often those places will be when the voice is low, when the notes go down lower, so your breathing will be under less pressure. And if you can take a breath where there's a comma, all well and good. And sing comfortably with your voice, allowing your singing to control the breath. So those are just a few ideas about breathing that I have. If you are interested in taking lessons or interested in more of what I have to say like this, you can find my details under Paul Martyn-West, Martyn, on the AOTIS Britain, the Association of Teachers of Singing website. And I teach face-to-face. I also teach on Zoom, FaceTime, Skype, and those platforms. And if you'd like to check out my singing, I have a couple of CDs on YouTube, one of which is a collection of classical English songs called Strings in the Earth and Air, and you can hear me sing at an optimum level, whereas I'm just kind of cracking off notes on these videos here. But you'll be able to see what I do more professionally. So I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I hope it's been instructive for you, if that's the right word. And please feel free to contact me if you would like lessons. And go ahead and enjoy your singing. Bye.